Hello and welcome to part one of Ethics Considerations for Crowdsourced Fundraising. My name is Maura Leary, and I'm an assistant counsel at the Office of Government Ethics. In this training, I'm going to discuss soliciting gifts from crowdsourcing campaigns. After you finish this training, I highly recommend watching part two, where my colleague, David Taubey, discusses accepting gifts from crowdsourcing campaigns. I'm now on the second slide. Crowdsourced fundraising, or crowdfunding, is defined as the practice of obtaining needed funding by soliciting contributions from a large number of people. We're focusing here on ethics considerations for online crowdfunding on sites such as GoFundMe or Kickstarter. We also published a legal advisory on this topic, LA 2007, titled Answers to Frequently Asked Questions for Employees Engaged in Crowdsourced Fundraising. Now on slide 3. I wanted to start by talking a little bit about why this issue is important enough that OGE felt it was appropriate to address it in a legal advisory and through this training. Technology has changed how people ask for and receive financial assistance. Sites like GoFundMe have become incredibly common for all sorts of issues. And real-world events can impact a lot of people, including federal employees. In 2019, many federal employees were furloughed without pay for over a month. Since March of 2020, we've all been dealing with a worldwide pandemic. These sorts of events caused many federal employees to turn to crowdsourced fundraising for assistance. And it can be hard to remember, particularly in stressful and trying times, that the gift rules apply even off duty and even to issues not related to your federal job. So OGE is trying to provide ethics officials and employees with tools to address these issues as they come up in real time. I'm now on slide 4. There are two key ideas that ethics officials and employees should keep in mind when thinking about crowdsourcing. First, the gift rules, which can be found in 5 CFR Part 2635, subparts B and C, generally apply to funds that are solicited or donated through crowdsourcing. But applying the gift rules can be tricky in this context. So, any employee thinking about engaging in crowdsourced fundraising or accepting funds from a crowdsourcing campaign needs to talk to their ethics official to get guidance. I'm now on slide 5. When we say our gift rules generally apply, this flowchart for gift analysis is a really helpful resource. First, is it a gift at all? According to our rules, a gift includes any gratuity, favor, discount, entertainment, hospitality, loan, forbearance, or other item having monetary value. You can find this definition in 5 CFR 2635-203B. There are certain specific exclusions from this definition, but let's stick with the broad definition for now. As the flowchart shows, if the item is not a gift, it can be accepted. Once you've identified something as a gift, you then need to determine whether it's prohibited. There are 2 general prohibitions relating to gifts, one for gifts from outside sources and a separate prohibition for gifts from your federal coworkers. We'll talk about both prohibitions later in this training, but keep in mind that if a gift is not prohibited, as defined by our rules, it can be accepted. If an item is a prohibited gift, then you need to determine whether an exception applies. We'll talk about appropriate exceptions too. And remember that if an exception applies, the gift can be accepted. You need to go through all 3 of these questions before making a determination that the item cannot be accepted. I'm now on slide 6. So, to reiterate, this is the same analysis to use when thinking through setting up a crowdsourced fundraiser to solicit donations. First, is it a gift? Generally speaking, you're asking for an item of monetary value, that's money, and there are no exclusions that would generally apply. So yes, you're most likely soliciting gifts when setting up a crowdsourced fundraiser. You can't solicit gifts from prohibited sources. A prohibited source is defined in 5 CFR 2635-203D, but a useful working definition is a person that does or would like to do business with your agency, or a person regulated by your agency. You can't direct a crowdsourcing solicitation to any person that you know or have reason to think falls into that category. You also can't solicit gifts given because of your official position. And these rules apply unless there's an applicable exception. I'm now on slide 7. There is one important exception that is highly relevant to crowdsourced fundraising, the personal relationship exception. Under this exception, employees may solicit a gift from an individual under circumstances which make clear that the gift is motivated by a family relationship or personal friendship rather than their federal position. As you can imagine, a lot of the time, a person might donate to someone's GoFundMe page because they know that person, and that personal relationship is motivating the donation. This is permissible. Using the example from LA 2007, a college roommate donates to an employee's online fundraiser for that employee's unexpected home repair expenses after a storm. As long as the circumstances indicate that the gift is motivated by the friendship, this donation can be accepted. That analysis applies even if the roommate is a prohibited source. Say the employee works at DoD, the roommate works at Raytheon. As long as the circumstances indicate that the relationship motivated the donation, the gift can be accepted. Here's a useful tip. One good way to make sure you're in safe ethical territory is to only send information about a crowdsourced fundraising campaign that you're starting to people with whom you have a close personal relationship. I'm now on slide 8. We've discussed soliciting gifts from prohibited sources and when exceptions to that general prohibition might apply. Now, what about soliciting gifts based on your official position? The key thing to keep in mind here is that if the solicitation directly ties the intended use of donations to an employee's federal job, there's a strong inference that any donations would be given because of an employee's official position. In addition, employees are prohibited from using their federal position to induce a benefit or indicate government endorsement of any activity, including a solicitation. So we know referencing your federal position in a crowdsourcing campaign is a problem. What are some examples? An employee solicits funds to pay for a professional certification that will qualify that employee for a promotion. An employee posts an online fundraiser with the following statement: I cannot pay these hospital bills because I serve my country as an underpaid federal employee. Or an employee posts a picture of themselves in a military uniform on a crowdsourcing page set up to assist the employee with car repairs. These all run afoul of prohibitions against soliciting because of your official position. Now, some of these examples more directly violate the rule than others, but a good rule of thumb is for employees to just avoid referencing their federal employment entirely. I'm now on slide 10. We spent a lot of time talking about more general crowdfunding, which anyone can donate to. But what about using platforms like this to set up a campaign specifically for your federal coworkers? Say someone is dealing with a health issue in your office, for example. Generally speaking, this is not a great idea. And this is for a few reasons. First, the gifts rules apply differently to different categories of employees. So some employees, such as subordinates or contractors who might be prohibited sources, would not be permitted or may not be permitted to donate to the online fundraiser. This can create confusion. Also, the public nature of these platforms can cause the appearance of pressure on the employees to donate to these personal causes, which we certainly want to avoid. There's other ways to support employees who work in the same office as you, so online fundraising is generally discouraged in the federal workplace. I'm now on slide 11. Now, since the gift rules only apply to federal employees, it's possible for a federal employee to create a crowdsourced fundraiser for a non-employee, such as a friend. Even then, you still need to be careful. It's important to be clear that the beneficiary is not a government employee, and you should still avoid mentioning your government position, as again, your position shouldn't be used to induce benefits. This would be another great opportunity to consult with your ethics official. One final note on creating crowdsourced fundraisers. Everything we've discussed today applies to fundraising for individuals. If you are interested in fundraising for a nonprofit, look to 5 CFR 2635-808C for guidance. I'm now on slide 12 and I've reached the end of the training. That's it for part 1 of this training. Thank you so much for watching. I wanted to end with a friendly reminder that you can always get more information about ethics topics by talking to your agency ethics official or checking the OGE website at www.oge.gov. Please stay tuned for part 2 of this training, accepting donations from crowdsourced fundraisers.